There we go. I think we are live, which is good. Although it has taken a little bit of time to negotiate the tech, as we always have these problems. However, I think all is well. So, okay, let's just clear my screen. Good comment. So if anyone joins in, anyone that wants to ask questions, say hi and where you're from, which will always be good. It's always good to hear and see who's actually on these conversations, who's listening, whereabouts you're listening. Hi to Connie, your first one to pop in. Apologies for the delay. I've just been playing with the tech, as these things always are, really, trying to get StreamYard to work properly, and then backgrounds and such things. But it's all good, because here we are. So it is July the 14th. Funnily enough, my son's birthday, Ollie's birthday today. So happy birthday to Ollie if you're listening. I'm sure you're probably chilling, which will be good. And so today we're going to talk about something interesting. So every kind of week, basically, Jane and I have a quick chat, and we talk about what we're going to say and what we're going to cover, and obviously which topic Chen would be interested to talk about, really. So this morning when I came down and wandered in the room and said, Chen's very keen this week to talk about meat and eating animals and eating meat, Jane's face was a picture, really. So she said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, that's what he wants to talk about. I know it's going to be a bit contentious, and there's different viewpoints, and different people have different perspectives and that kind of thing. But that was the topic for today. So what we tend to find with Chen, basically, anyone that's spoken to Chen in a Chen chat, or anyone that's been in a room when I've been kind of channeling Chen, will know that Chen doesn't back away from any conversation about anything at all, basically. So generally, there's never anything off the table from that perspective. And he's quite keen to provide guidance. And of course, we must remember that this is what it is. It's guidance from my spirit guide Chen. It's his opinions, his thoughts, his ideas. Everyone that listens to these conversations, we all have our own choices and opinions too, of course, and they're valuable and need to be taken into account. But I think one of the things we need to do as a kind of species really is to allow all of the topics on the table that we all discuss and we all kind of surface, and we have our different views, opinions, and our viewpoints, and we don't really berate other people. So if we've got people that think one thing, they should be allowed to think that, and then if someone else has a completely different alternate opposite view, that's cool as well. It should be a case of, okay, that's your opinion and this is mine. And I think this is how we need to kind of move our species forward, really, sort of from a humanity perspective. And certainly it is Chen's kind of teaching to me, really, is that this is where we need to get to. We need to get to a point that we're looking at things in a positive way, and we respect other people's opinions, or conscious awareness, their thoughts and their ideas. So Connie is from Texas, so great to have you on. Happy birthday to Ollie. Yeah, which I'm not exactly, I think he's 29, so he's not exactly a child anymore. He's fully fledged adult, basically, in his own right. Jane thought I'd forgotten, but no, it's all good. So so that's the kind of general concept for today's conversation. I can see people that are starting to join. Apologies to you guys that realised that I was late. We're normally always late. I think it's probably one of those things. We all try and get on time at some point. So apologise if you've been sat waiting for the live button to go red on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you're watching from. Hi to Beverly, good to see you, or well, to see you on here anyway. Obviously can't see you, but nice for you to be here. So this week we're talking about eating meat, basically. And if we look at it from my perspective, really, to start with, eating meat kind of covers two things, really. We've got the kind of, do we need to eat meat to stay alive conversation? And then we've kind of got the spiritual implications of ingesting meat. So from my angle, really, there are kind of two ways that we can kind of split the conversation, two ways that we can look at it from that viewpoint. Just going to say hi to Leanne and Geraldine. Good to have you here, folks. And hopefully this will be an interesting conversation. So, I mean, that's kind of my view and take on this whole thing, really. Again, it's interesting to think about the way we eat meat and why we need to eat meat, and do we need to eat meat. So for myself, just talking about my own kind of path, I guess, really. So I used to eat meat for most of my life, and then I met Jane. And when I started to do psychic surgery work, one of the things that Chen wanted me to do was to become vegetarian, and that was quite difficult. I'd spent my life basically eating meat, and then we had this conversation that to raise my vibration and to kind of move along my spiritual path and to work with him, there was this request from him really to go vegetarian. So as you can imagine, it's kind of a big ask for someone that's been spent most of their life eating meat. I wasn't particularly spiritual at the time. I've been doing Reiki and going to different groups and spiritual groups and meditation groups. So when Chen sort of came through and started to kind of talk to me and said, well, he set me this goal and said, if you want me to work with you from a psychic surgery perspective, your vibration needs to come up, and mine obviously coming down to meet yours in trance. So to do that, I need you to be vegetarian, basically. So that was the ask. So I did that, basically. I did 7 years as a vegetarian, and that was how it was. Turned out actually it was a test from Chen to see if I'd do it primarily. So there wasn't really a reason to do it other than the reason he gave me. But it turned out it was a bit of a test to see how much I wanted to do the work, how much I wanted to connect with him and work from a psychic surgery perspective, and whether I could do that. So one day, Jane and I were walking through Totnes, of all places, in the UK, and I think it was a weekend or something, and I'd been vegetarian, so every time we went out for food, obviously I was looking at the vegetarian menu, that type of thing. And I walked past this Indian restaurant and looked at the menu and said, oh, I fancy eating meat today. Lamb, I think it was at the time, a lamb curry or something. And Jane's face was a picture. She said, but you can't because Chen said that you can't. I said, well, I think I've done with that, really. I sort of feel like I can now. And I've actually got this kind of taste for meat, for lamb. So we went into this Indian restaurant. I had a lamb dish, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And when I connected to Chen, I said to him, I'm sure you probably know, basically ate meat over the weekend. He said, yeah, that's fine, no problem. He said it was just a test to see if you were going to stay on track. So for 7 years, basically, I kind of had been vegetarian, and then literally overnight, a complete kind of step change and moved back to eating meat again. So that was my kind of personal path and journey with the vegetarian diet, and obviously coming from a meat eater as well. So I was going to say hi to Vanessa. Vanessa's joined. Good to see you here as well. So I think again, for me, like the whole meat conversation, we divide this into two things: the spiritual aspects and then the health kind of reflections. So from a oneness and interconnection perspective, spiritually we're all kind of beings, humans, animals, fish and plants, as we know. So we kind of share the same life force, energy. We talk about the etheric field a lot in the work that we do. So when we eat another being or energy, obviously we enter into a kind of energetic exchange. So if we eat meat, a fish or a cow, we enter into that energetic exchange with that animal. So that act carries the spiritual weight, really, of the digestion from a spiritual perspective of the meat. And that obviously affects our physical body. So when we eat meat, we process meat, so we get energy and nutrients and health from meat. But of course, the vibration of the animal that we've just eaten also goes into our subtle energy body, into our etheric field. So obviously that can change the way that we feel, changes our vibration. So if we think about vibration, which again we talk about all the time, really everything is frequency, as we know, everything is vibration. Let's say hi to Joanne. Good to see you here. So many people believe that the energy of the food shapes our vibration. Animals, especially those who've experienced stress and fear before death, obviously have they can hold a denser and more heavy energy. And then when we consume that meat, obviously it influences our emotional and spiritual clarity, which can sometimes make it harder for some people to access the higher states of conscious awareness and inner peace. And I know that one of the things that Chen talked about for quite a long time really was, again, depending upon how animals are slaughtered, depends upon the adrenaline in their blood and obviously the whole process. And I guess he'll probably go into that in his conversation. But it kind of makes sense that as we're consuming anything, really, our vibration's changing. So the same concept, if we're consuming pharmaceuticals or drugs or substances, they go into our blood, they change our emotional vibration, change our mental state. So everything that we ingest is going to change us in one way or another. So if we look at the compassionate, I guess, karmic and intentional aspects of not eating meat, really, or animals, kind of people that don't or choose not to eat animals, we tend to view that as a compassionate thing, aligning with higher spiritual principles, really, of kind of non-violence, that sort of thing. And obviously, some people think or consider that it reduces the karmic entanglement when we don't do those things. and promotes kind of a more of a, I guess, heart-centered kind of way of living to a certain degree. So from a spiritual standpoint, it's not really just about avoiding meat. It's kind of about making choices with love and gratitude and respect for the animals and the things that we do ingest. Now, other people that I've spoken to over the years talk about grounding. So many spiritual teachers will tell you that animals or animal food grounds us. It anchors our energy back into the planet. It can be quite supportive for those who feel that they're disconnected. So for some people, eating animals is a grounding process or technique. And some people talk about feeling lighter, clearer, and kind of more attuned spiritually from a spiritual guidance perspective when they avoid meat as well, allowing their vibration to move up. So again, we've got these different kind of ideas, and different people have got different stances on those things altogether. So really, if we look at the health aspect, so this was part of the conversation I was having with Chen, really, was the health of the human body without meat, I guess, and with meat too. So from a health perspective, it's obviously possible to live and even thrive, of course, without eating meat, but it does require some more conscious planning, really. So without meat, humans need to pay more attention, I think, to vitamins and to nutrition. So we know that vitamin B12 is kind of, essential for our nerve health and energy, and B12 is found primarily in animal products. So that needs to be kind of supplemented by people that don't eat meat. And then if we think about iron, we know that iron is essential, really, from a human perspective. And of course, it's easily absorbed by eating meat. So again, people that don't eat meat tend to or can become iron deficient. So iron is another kind of vitamin and mineral we need to think about if we're kind of not processing or following the kind of meat-based diet, really. And then there's obviously complete proteins, which can be combined or can be obtained by combining different plant sources like grains and nuts and seeds and those sorts of things. Omega-3, obviously fatty acids, very important for brain and heart health. And of course, that can be sourced, if it's not by meat, really, from things like algae-based substances, supplements, flaxseed, chia seeds, those sorts of things. And then obviously zinc and other amino acids can be found in lower-based plant diets, but again, they're kind of plentiful with meat. So for people that don't eat meat, you need to be thinking about that conscious level of where do you get those other vitamins and minerals from, which your body needs. And this, again, is part of this conversation, really, that as a human being, are we designed to be eating meat? And if our nutrition requires it, then can we find the vitamins and minerals from somewhere else? So I guess a well-planned diet, really, based upon the things that we need, obviously covers cholesterol, heart disease, all the things that we know that supports basically overall longevity. So sometimes neglecting those nutritional aspects will lead to nutritional deficiencies, and then of course health challenges. So again, for people that don't eat meat, we need to think about how we do those things and how we kind of plan providing yourself with all of the minerals and nutrients that we need. And of course, when we get older, we have other problems with thyroid and other things start to come into effect as well, effectively. So spiritually, really, I guess it's not only what we eat, but how we eat that matters. When we choose our food, is it with mindfulness and kind of respect and gratitude? Whether it's plant-based or includes animal products, we kind of align ourselves with that higher vibration, and we're trying to cultivate a deeper connection, really, to the kind of web of life. So my kind of take on this whole thing, really, is the diet is deeply personal, and I guess sacred to each of us. And each of us, certainly from a soul and spirit perspective, must listen to our own needs and purpose and try and balance our physical health with our energetic vibration, and that must align with our spiritual values too. So I guess by approaching food as a conscious ritual of nourishment and gratitude, we kind of honour that body, temple, and the spirit that's within, really. So it's just a different way of thinking about things, and each person's different. So one person probably can live a very fulfilled life nutritionally without eating meat, and someone else maybe needs to eat meat in their diet to get the nutrition and the things that they need. And again, of course, from a vibratory perspective, as we consume food, we know that our vibration changes the same as with chemicals and substances. I think Leanne's just popped on and said, can our vibration still be raised if we're on antidepressants? I think Leanne definitely, for sure, really. I think everything that we consume and take will change our vibration. And of course, it changes our emotional state and our mental state and those sorts of things. But I think, again, the stronger the medication, maybe the more difficult we need to work, or we need to work harder to kind of raise our vibration to those higher levels. And I know from my perspective, it's taken me, I've been on the spiritual path now for kind of 20 years plus. It's taken me a long time to find out what diet works, what things I can and can't do. Can I drink alcohol? That kind of thing. So for me, alcohol really is not a massive problem if it's not kind of taken in excess. I found I had more problems. So smoking weed and things caused me more problems from a spiritual perspective than alcohol. So for me, alcohol works better than weed and those sorts of things. So I don't tend to do any drugs other than alcohol, basically. And the same as smoking. I used to smoke years ago. Didn't really affect my vibration. Didn't really affect my spiritual practice and connection to Chen. So smoking tobacco for me personally was never a problem particularly. But again, weed and some of the other drugs and things, not that I've done loads of drugs, but primarily only weed, but that certainly interfered with my spiritual kind of practice and spiritual connection to Chen. So that was my kind of personal journey and my personal take on things. But we all need to kind of look at ourselves and work out what kind of works and what doesn't really. And that's the key. There isn't one right answer for anyone, and we need to go on that journey. And I know from my perspective, I tend to keep my vibration quite high. I don't eat like a saint particularly, but I don't eat particularly bad food either. So I try and stay away from takeaways and certain branded bridge type food, the two bridges, the general stuff that we know isn't particularly good. I don't tend to eat that type of thing. But obviously, we do go out to pubs and restaurants and make choices based on food. But again, for me, it's kind of my vibration generally stays about the same as long as I don't kind of overindulge in negative food choices, really. So I kind of know that I found myself from a kind of eating perspective. And again, I think we all need to do the same. When you eat something that makes you feel bad, or you wake up feeling lousy in the morning, that choice of food wasn't particularly good. And again, how much water we drink. We know that all of our cells contain water, so we need to drink water. And the more water we drink, obviously the better things are from a cellular perspective, and probably the better things are from a health perspective too. And I'm sure if we all kind of looked at our kind of water ingestion amounts on a daily basis, we all probably fall short really of what we actually need. But again, most people don't drink until they start to feel thirsty. And we kind of know that when we feel thirsty, we've kind of gone past that point of requiring water. So we're already deficient really from a kind of water perspective. Okay, hi to Miriam, who's just joined as well. So I think what we'll do, let's hand over to Chen and see what his conversation opinion is, because this is obviously what we're here to do. You've had my kind of version, my opinions on things and my personal bits and pieces. So let's get Chen in to give his opinion. Okay, so I've got my phone somewhere handy. Thought I had. Okay, so my phone is probably in the other room. Oh no, it is, yeah. I was prepared. Jane always thinks I'm not prepared, but I am prepared. It's just a different type of being prepared, really. It's kind of the male version, where you're slightly prepared, but not completely prepared. Right, so I'm just going to set a timer. Okay, so Chen's on the clock, basically, which always has to happen. Otherwise, we'll be here for hours on end. Okay, folks, I'm going to hand over to Chen, see what he has to say, and I'll catch you in a while. Good day to you all. It's with my pleasure again that we have this weekly conversation, and it's a very interesting topic this week. As young Andrew did explain at the start of the conversation, there are certain things that people like to talk about, and there are certain things that tend to be off topic. And of course, some of these more controversial conversations are conversations that we do need to engage in from a spiritual, collective, and conscious perspective. So we can all do the easy conversations where we talk about the things that we all know, that we generally agree on. Certainly people in the spiritual arena, following the spiritual path, are aligned with certain things. We know that war is particularly bad. We know that killing people is particularly bad. So we wouldn't really have any contentious conversations if we were talking about those topics. But obviously the method to consume animals' fish and meat and such like is obviously a more difficult conversation, because this conversation has different aspects to it. We have first of all the health aspect, nutritional conversation that we can discuss, and of course then we have the conscious perspective when we consume meat and animals, fish and such like. How does that map into the conscious awareness of the collective part of your species from a humanity perspective? So that's a completely different conversation to whether it's nutritionally good or bad. And then of course we have the concept that obviously, are we aligned with the things that we live around? Should we be doing those things? And then of course we have the concepts of people making choices from a programming perspective. So when I say a programming perspective, everyone is brought up in a family. You have social and cultural, parental and religious overlays applied to you as you grow up. So everyone on planet Earth grows up in a family, and they're exposed to the teachings, the programming and the understanding of the people that you live around all of the time. So from my perspective, we've got three things to consider here really. We've got the health aspects and nutritional aspects of consuming food, meat, fish and such like. We've got the conscious part of that conversation, and then we've got the overlaid programming part of the conversation. So let's begin with the health aspect. So if we look at the planet Earth that you all currently exist on in the 3D vibration, effectively, everything that's alive, that's living, generally consumes something to live. So every single thing eats something else. It may not be something alive, but a cow may consume grass, but grass effectively has a vibration. It's living, it's a living product. So effectively, we could say plants are alive as well as animals, mammals, fish, and birds and other such things. So everything that's actually on the planet has a vibratory frequency, and we can measure those frequencies. So we can measure the frequency of a plant, of grass, of an animal, of a bird, of a fish. So everything is living, or in order to live, everything has to digest something. And of course, each thing is digesting the things designed for it, basically. So if we look at most animals on the planet, most birds and fish, they're digesting the things that they're designed to eat. So the human being is the only one that's different, really, the only mammal that's different, really, that consumes things that really aren't designed for you. So if we look at the orchestration of the dietary system, so if we start with your teeth, we look at the teeth, we know that the human can eat fish, it can eat meat, it can eat plants. So your teeth and your digestive tract and your digestive system is designed to eat a variety of things. If we look at things like cows, we know that the cow has a digestive tract and system that's designed to eat basically plant-based food. So grass, that type of thing. If we fed mammals or animals to cows, they wouldn't be able to digest them properly because they're not constructed to do that. So everything that's alive has a digestive system that's set up for the right foods. And of course, by default, when animals, fish, birds, those sorts of things are incarnated into planet Earth, they automatically know what to eat. So if we look at a wolf knows that it's probably not going to eat grass. A wolf is designed to eat meat. It will find prey that it can basically chase down and effectively extract the food from in the way that it's designed. So everything on the planet, apart from humans, generally follows the normal path that it's designed for. So the digestive tract and digestive system is designed to do what it does in the right way. And every animal, fish and plant is digesting the right things for itself. Then we have Homo erectus, the human being that comes along. And of course, you've got this digestive system whereby you can digest different things. But again, it doesn't operate completely for everything as it's supposed to. So if you consume far too much meat, you might find that the stomach acid levels in your stomach are not enough to be able to process and digest that meat, pull apart the nutrition and nutrients. So you may not need to eat for a few days if you had a huge meal. Whereas, of course, if you're eating plant-based food, you might find that the amount of stomach acid in your stomach clears and removes the plant-based nutrition very quickly, and then you find yourself quite hungry because, of course, there's no protein going in that food. And again, if you eat mainly carbohydrates, you'll find that the stomach acid levels will change. The amount of stomach acid will be used to process carbohydrates in a different way to if you consume protein. So the human being is quite complex in the way that you are set up. And generally, of course, the teeth are the same. So your teeth are designed that you can tear flesh and meat. And of course, you can also process plant-based food effectively. So you can cover both things. Obviously, we could talk about the wider dietary problems of the human being, but of course, that's really a different conversation. This is more about what you're designed to eat. So if we looked at the complex nutritional health requirements of a human being, to tick all of the boxes, you would say, if we go back to the actual design of the human, then you're designed obviously to eat meat for protein. We know that you would eat berries and such like those sorts of foods. You would eat small amounts of carbohydrate because, of course, carbohydrate wasn't really invented when the human digestive system was invented. So there was no concept of farming and grains and those sorts of foods. That's all come along with the evolution of agriculture and the human over time, but it certainly wasn't there with the actual orchestrated design of the human being. So a human being would have been walking around, if you like, the plains, finding animals, eating infrequently, but probably larger meals. And then whilst they're walking around, they would be ingesting or consuming small amounts of berries, fruits, those sorts of things. So mainly protein-based food, very small amounts of carbohydrate, and then obviously fruits, again in small amounts probably. And there would be a whole lot of fasting that would happen. So again, you are designed that you could take in quite a lot of food, and as that's being processed, then there would be a gap between your next meal that you would hunt and find, potentially, whether that would be fish-based or meat-based, some type of protein generally. So there would be a fasting element that happens. Obviously, what happens now with the human diet is food is so regular, people are eating 3-4 meals a day continually without any concept of fasting in between. And of course, you're mixing protein and carbohydrate in the same meals, which was never really the way that the human digestive system was constructed and set up. And of course, the agricultural aspects, if we overlay that on top of the nutritional aspects, is causing lots of people with dietary problems. So most people that you probably know have acid reflux, stomach acid issues, those sorts of things because of the types of food they're consuming and the methods in which they're consuming them. So basically, the human is designed to eat, as we just said, meat and obviously plants. And we can combine the two with very small amounts of carbohydrate. So the diet now has gone the other way. You have huge amounts of carbohydrate, very small amounts of protein, probably very small amounts of plant-based food too. So everything's completely upside down from a digestive process. So then if we talk about the spiritual concept, so when people eat meat, what happens? So let's think about an animal. An animal in the modern system is farmed in different ways. So if we take a cow, for instance, obviously it's farmed, it's allowed to walk around, it's let out, it's fed, obviously it grows depending upon what's being given to it to grow. But if an animal will grow, and then of course it gets to the point that it's ready for slaughter. And at this point now, in the modern system, these animals get put onto the backs of vehicles, they get pushed in together, they're in a state of fear generally, they're transported somewhere to an abattoir, somewhere for a distance, and then of course they're lined up in a processing line effectively. So we can imagine that the adrenaline level and the fear level in the blood is very, very high. And as those animals are coming in line to be slaughtered, the blood is flowing with adrenaline and fear. So two low vibrating frequencies. So of course that meat's then processed and that ends up in a shop somewhere, whether it's a supermarket or some type of shop. So you then basically go along to that shop and you buy that piece of steak or that piece of food, that piece of fish. And of course, the vibratory frequency of it is generally probably quite low because, of course, the fear level and the adrenaline levels were very high in the blood when that meat or food or fish was processed. So of course you ingest that into your own self, and then of course your vibration changes according to what you're eating. So if you're eating high vibrating positive food, your vibration will come up. If you're ingesting low vibrating negative fear-based food, then of course your vibration comes down slightly. And this is going on all the time, vibrations going up and down. And this is one of the conversations I had with young Andrew some time ago, and said one day people will buy food based upon the frequency of vibration of the food, not about the taste or the name. So when you go to a supermarket, if you could look at the shelves, and the shelves are ordered by frequency, so those that have the best nutritional values from a high frequency of vibration were at the top of the shelf, they would be the most expensive. Then as you cascade down the shelf, the food at the bottom is all the low vibrating negative food that's negative frequency or very low frequency. So you'll be choosing to buy foods based upon the frequency of vibration, not about the price or the type of food. So this is how things will change and probably evolve over time. And there are devices now that can measure frequency of vibration, but it's early days really from a human perspective. And of course it doesn't really align particularly well with the food manufacturing system. So this is how we expect things to go in time to come. You will purchase and buy food based upon frequency, and higher frequencies will be more expensive and lower frequencies will be obviously less cost. So this kind of covers the aspect of what you eat in terms of frequency and how it changes your vibratory frequency. So people are eating what you might call fast food, food that is dead nutritionally. So we look at fast food. Fast food is a concept, and the clue is in the name, of course. It's fast food. It's designed to be eaten fast. It's not nutritional food or food that's good for you. It's food that's designed to be eaten quickly. But if we looked at that from a vibratory perspective, it's probably less than zero from our perspective. There's no vibration at all to it. So even if you're eating a chicken nugget or something that's called chicken, it's probably processed manufactured chicken with lots of binders, fillers, all sorts of other things added, and the vibratory frequency is probably next to nothing. So it's more or less nutritionally dead for you. So again, if we looked at nutrition, if you took a piece of raw steak and you cooked it very quickly and you consumed that steak in the same way that a wolf or an animal may do that, nutritionally very high, lots of hormones, lots of vitamins, minerals, lots of things going into your body that your body can extract and use for health. If we take a piece of fast food, you're eating that, it's nutritionally dead, nothing at all that can be used really by your body. And of course, apart from creating cholesterol problems and obviously fat, eating huge amounts of solids, salts, sugars and fats. So your body starts to take upon fat effectively because it can't process it in any way. So that's the next part of that conversation. And then we go to the spiritual aspect. So the concepts of people that have gone vegan or vegetarian are doing so not because of a nutritional choice, but because of a conscious choice. So they feel that they want to align themselves from a spiritual perspective with a higher vibration, with higher energies, maybe higher entities too, probably, and their vibration will ascend more than someone that's eating low vibrating negative food. So the reluctance to eat meat and fish for people that are vegetarian or vegan is obviously a conscious choice, and that choice is normally made because they don't want animals or things to suffer that they eat. So they make that choice and they're happy with that position. And of course that is a bona fide position to be in. And if we look at lots of the other entities that exist around you, many of which I have on my team, most of them come from more vegetarian based species. Really, they're not consuming each other, they're not consuming animals, they're not consuming things that are alive. But as your species evolves, obviously the biology changes, the frequency changes, and then you don't need to eat meat, you don't need to eat fish, but you're still living on a planet where you do. So your bodies are still nutritionally still require food and to break down nutrition to give you health. And people that don't cover all of the aspects of their vitamin and mineral requirements become deficient, and then of course deficiency will probably change to disease in some way. So again, if we looked at people that are vegan or vegetarian, if they're not following a particularly good diet and giving themselves the vitamins and minerals they can't get from a normal perspective, they will become nutritionally deficient. And of course, this means that they will have an energy problem, because we know that when we consume food, food is processed, nutrition is processed, and it creates energy. And energy goes into every cell of your body, which allows you to do the things that you do. So if you're not eating the right food, you're not creating energy, your metabolic system isn't working properly, and that will be a nutritional deficiency that will then probably percolate into some type of disease or problem. So this is what people that abstain from meat and fish and living food need to understand, that even though it's a good conscious choice, you do still have a body that's designed for that. And Andrew said to me the other day something which I thought was quite interesting. He said, well, you wouldn't take a petrol engine for a car, for an engine that's been built and designed by engineers to run on petrol. You wouldn't put diesel or water in that engine, because you know that engine's been designed to consume and run efficiently on petrol. So petrol is the only thing that can go in that engine to make it work properly. And the human body and the human condition is the same. You've got a certain digestive system, a certain biochemical system, and the whole thing is designed to process all of the things on the planet for you. And obviously protein is a very high requirement for all of you. So this is that concept, and we have to understand that everyone is allowed and should make their own conscious awareness choices. But again, it's a observed, intelligent choice. If you choose to eat meat and you choose to eat fish, then potentially you know that from a nutritional perspective, you get the nutrition that you need. If you then abstain from junk food, fast food and such like, you're probably going to be healthier, you'll be thinner, you'll have less health problems. If you go the other way and abstain from meat, fish, living food altogether, then you need to make sure your diet is very wide and rich to be able to bridge the gaps of the things that you no longer get because you're not eating meat. And if you don't do that, and you don't do that continually, then you will see health issues surface, and people will start to see they have energy problems or energy related diseases. Will be the way that the conventional medical system will view it effectively. So if you look in the blood is the key to the human being. And this is why when you go to the hospital or doctors, they take your blood, because the blood has all of the answers. And this, of course, is where things are moving to from a health perspective on planet Earth, is that one day there will be, you will walk into a medical doctor's room and there probably won't be a human sat there. There'll probably be some sort of machine that will take your blood, will process the blood, will find the deficiencies in your blood that remove you from perfect health. And then at the other end of the room, there'll be a machine that spits out some type of pharmaceutical tablet or something that's designed to resolve and fix the problems from the lack of nutrition that's causing the disease and the issues. So this is obviously a long way down the line, most probably. But you can quite imagine a day whereby if you connect AI with robotics and all of the other types of engineering, then something that takes your blood, that looks at your complete vibratory frequency, will be able to detect what the problem is and why you don't have perfect health and why you have diseases and problems. Of course, you still have the choices to be able to eat food that is dead effectively. And we all know that dead food is dead food. And people that go into fast food restaurants and eat fast food continually know that they're consuming something that has no nutritional, vibrational frequency. But of course, they taste good. And of course, the companies that make these foods make sure they taste good, because that's their model. Their model is to sell continual, repeat customer business for nutritionally dead food that's very cheap to produce, with obviously a very good profit margin and a recurring customer. So this is what we need to think about too. But hopefully today we've covered the concepts of certainly the conversations of meat, why in our perspective you would need to eat meat, because you're designed to eat meat, your system is designed and requires meat and fish and such like. But again, obviously the best, purest food that you can find, the concepts around if you don't eat meat, or you choose to not eat meat from a conscious or spiritual perspective, then of course that's a choice. But then you just need to augment your diet with the other things that you need. And if you're having health problems and you're vegetarian, vegan, or you have other health choices, then of course you need to look at the the width of the dietary choices that you're making and plug the gaps. And again, this can be done with a blood test. So I would suggest that people that have limited diets have a blood test and find, are you deficient in vitamin B12? Are you deficient in iron? Are you deficient in niacin and other things? And we know all of those things are incorporated into meat. So people that make those choices or have those health problems should really get the blood test quite quickly, and then they'll find their deficiencies, and then they can choose foods or supplements to basically resolve the problem and move them back to perfect health, away from long-term disease and problems. So hopefully this helps. It's been an interesting conversation, one that we look down to a certain degree, obviously, figuratively, and find very interesting that we have these pockets of people that are making decisions, some based on conscious awareness and spiritual thought, some based on vibratory choice, and some based on taste. And of course, it's quite interesting to see how that overlays onto your whole species as a whole. And of course, we look at the younger generations coming through, and they're generally programmed by the media, obviously by the societal structures that they live in, as to the food choices that they make. So it's interesting, and of course things are changing quite rapidly from a human perspective. So we do watch, we do view, we do listen, and of course we do have our guidance and opinions, but you have to make your choices that sit right for you. And you must remember that some of you have come from planets whereby you don't eat or consume meat, and therefore you will be leaning towards that from that perspective anyway, because it's already in your DNA, it's already part of your path, it's already part of your vibratory frequency. Other people may come from planets whereby the consumption of different types of meat is normal, and then of course you will feel that's totally fine from your perspective. So you've also got the starseed concept that all of you on this planet are all mixed, and there are lots of mixed species walking around the planet, and what's right for one person isn't then right for someone else, and that needs to be taken into consideration too. So before you have views that you overlay onto other people, just bear in mind that your views are yours for you, and as long as you make a conscious choice that you're happy with, then that's as far as it should go. So we shouldn't have groups of people telling other groups of people what they should and shouldn't consume and what they should and shouldn't do, because you don't know what energy is behind those people, where they come from, and what's right for their particular chemistry, their biology, and their body type. So I think it's probably quite a good point there to leave this conversation, which I hope you've all enjoyed. I've enjoyed the weekly chat, and I will look forward to next week again and hand you back to young Andrew. So we'll say good day. Okay, so I'm back. So hopefully Chen's not annoyed too many people, which is always good. So James just saying on this channeling Chen in Spirit God. Yeah, so for anyone that didn't know, basically that was a trance channeling of Chen. So we're talking about the consumption of meat, fish and animals effectively in this chat. I know it's a conversation that comes up quite a lot in our conversations behind the scenes. Lots of people ask us continually, should we be vegetarian, should we be vegan, or they are vegan or vegetarian, don't feel very well, should they go back to eating meat? So again, it's not opinions that we provide, really. Everyone has to make their own choice. We don't kind of tell people what they should and shouldn't do, because of course that wouldn't be the right thing to do at all. So everyone has to make a choice that is right for them, and that is obviously the right thing to do. So I'm just going back through the chat. So hi to Ruth, good to see you here, and Joe, Diana's here as well. Trance demo, yep, so that was a trance channeling basically of Chen, who does this every week. He does it quite a lot actually, because we do Chen chats as well. So Chen spends more time in my body half the time than I do, which is quite funny. Nicole's here, Mimi, Cynthia, and Geraldine. And Jane's just saying hi to Diana. Okay, so thanks for joining, folks. Hopefully it's been of interest to you, and it's probably given you a different way to see things. Generally, Chen's opinion on everything really is different to most other people, but it's good to get a kind of spiritual perspective on some of these things. And if you've got topics or conversations that you'd like us to talk about, then just drop an email into Jane. She'll pick them up. Again, we tend to sort of ask Chen every week what he'd like to talk about. So most of the time it's he's looking, I guess, at what's going on behind the scenes, and then choosing a topic that he thinks people will be interested to hear guidance from. But if you've got things you want to hear, then obviously drop us a message and we'll kind of pick that up from that perspective. Miriam saying that she's one of the vegetarian aliens. Is that a word that Chen used, a vegetarian alien? No, it's funny. I simply cannot part meat or fish. No, well, this is the thing, Miriam. I think, again, everyone's making choices based on their own chemistry, biology, choice, what they can and can't do. And I think that's the right thing to do. Okay, well, I think we'll end that conversation there. It's good to have covered that. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And for those people that catch this up on a podcast, hopefully you've enjoyed the chat too. And we'll catch you again next week. Okay, bye, folks.